It's not too bad. Is that the one I want to keep though? We're gonna figure this out together. All right, y'all, let's start off with the bed here. Out of the 8 of the plants, this was the first one to show up. So this was number 1 out of the bunch. You can see that the 2 in the bed, for whatever reason, just are not as happy as the other ones. They're not bad looking plants. I think they look great. They look healthy. They're still growing. They are on the smaller side. We're obviously gonna still let it run. She's got a really nice stem rub. There's a element to it. It's got like a little bit of a funk creaminess almost. Nothing super crazy, but it's definitely there. Again, this was our first one. She's definitely showing sex there. We're starting to get some movement on things. She will be taking off very soon. This one's just a little bit behind her. Kind of hard for me to give you stem rubs on every single plant. My fingers are tainted, but she's got a good smell to her as well. These may not be my favorite right now. Who knows? Maybe once we get that, into that next generation, it'll give us something a little different. Let's start from here and we'll work our way down. This is what seems to be one of the larger females. She's looking really, really nice. I have been battling some heat and they don't seem to be taking it too bad. Also, it seems like it's got some pretty nice structure. We can see all those smaller ones coming out. I may end up coming through and taking off these larger leaves, or maybe we'll just tuck them. I'm not really sure yet. I like to leave as much foliage on there as I can, but I know there is some detriment to it. It covers some and maybe the airflow. But I like to leave as much foliage as possible usually, because then the plant has those nutrients to kind of build off of, because I tend to be lazy and I forget to top dress, or I get behind because I am out at a work thing for a week. I'm just lazy. We'll just chalk it up to that. But she's looking really nice. I really like her structure. She's got a nice little stem rub. I guess if I would say she's possibly a little bit creamier than that one, as in that kind of that funk, that little smell. I am taking notes of every day that I do something in the garden. I was originally going to number these plants, and that's how we were going to reference them. Why not just do something easier and say, hey, today, black cover, we did this, or I noticed this. So all of my notes that we're gonna have on these are going to reference as to what cover was on here. I will be able to say, okay, we saw this plant at this day, this is what it looked like, and it was in this box. That makes it a little bit easier for me to identify. We're gonna skip over this one. We're gonna go to the next female. I like this one as well. She's looking good. They all have really, really nice structure. And that smell was just a little bit different than the other. I don't know, but it's just slightly different than that one. Has a little bit of that. Man, I wish that I was so much better at explaining these things that I smell. I truly am envious of the people that have that talent, but I do not. Maybe I should come in here and kind of do a little bit of defoliating, or maybe I'll just leave it alone for a little bit. Not quite sure. Let's actually do this. We're gonna go around, check out all of our females first, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about our 2 males. One thing I did notice as well, and I'm sure you guys can see here, these plants on this side have definitely been larger than the other. They're both under the same light, so that one's under that same light as that one. Same with those. So it's very interesting to see why these ones kind of came up together and these ones stayed a little bit more squat on this side. So here's our next female that we've got here. She's looking really good. Not as quite of long branches coming out. She's still looking really awesome. I really like the serrated leaves that we got going on there. That is definitely more indicative of a tangy. So, I mean, this being a tangy cross, obviously that's going to come out. But I would say out of our bunch that we have here, the one in the yellow definitely seems to have more tangy looking leaves. Those really big serrated leaves. These ones do, but I feel like these are just slightly wider than say this one and maybe that one. Those ones I can kind of see how they have more tangy traits in them. Well, they all do, but those ones just seem to be calling to me. Not saying that I like them better than the others, but that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Here's our other one. Again, all of these have awesome structure. I'm really digging them. I'm truly excited to be able to get all these seeds that we're going to be getting and to see what comes of all of it. I have a feeling that one, and that one, I think are going to be ones that I'm very excited. I'm excited for them all, but something about these three are exciting me. Now, we've gone through all the females. We've got camo and we've got blue and gray. Those are our two males. Look at that. We got I moved that little thing and we had some worms under there. We'll get them back in there. Worm rescue. Here is our male in the gray and blue earth box cover. Slightly shorter than this one. As you can see, we're getting a little bit of leaf curl, little tacoing. I have my exhaust off right now. I have everything off. It's in the high 80s, so it's not quite as happy. One thing I can tell you, it's definitely got a stinkier stem rub than this one does. You know, as you can see, we've got all the sacs starting to show up. Still being a smaller plant, it is also still holding on to its pollen. We haven't seen any open up yet, so that's awesome. Like the structure. I think that the reason why it's tacoing and doing all that has nothing to do with its genetics, but the way that I am treating it. I definitely do not run the best environment when it comes to how I treat my plants. I don't have everything dialed in perfectly. I just don't. My plants need to be able to take that beating. Is that the one I want to keep though? We're gonna figure this out together. Here's a other male, definitely taller. You can see wider spacing. Also not loving life completely with the tacoing leaves. Our leaves that are showing probably some heat stress is what I would imagine. I don't imagine light stress because I definitely do not have these lights turned up super high. None of our females are really showing this type of, issues. Well, we got a little bit right there, but out of all that we have going on, it's really only the males that I notice that tacoing. So it's interesting. I don't know why. Back to this male, as you can see, taller, definitely has more sacs. One thing I do notice is we've already dropped some pollen. So some of these sacs have already opened. Do I want to keep this one? That I'm not sure. From what I understand, the ones that will drop the pollen first and kind of maybe a little bit taller, they're kind of off to the races and ready to let go what they got. They will want to pass on more of their traits than say something like that. And I do like this. I like that this is a quick growing, tall. I mean, it's not super tall right now, but it's towering above everybody else. Is that a trait that I want? Is that what I want to bring forward? Or do I keep both of them? And then that we have so much variance. It's a tough decision. I do like the structure on this one. I do notice that some of the lower ones are starting to catch up, and maybe that will have more of like a candelabra type structure. This, I think, will definitely lean more towards a nice large apical dominant. It's going to have some nice branching, but I don't think that these branches will ever come up too far to this. I think that one does have the chance, and I do like the stem rub on that. It's a tough decision. All right, y'all. So we now have what we will call male 1 and male 2. It's tough. Look at that difference. I say I know, and then I keep thinking. The only thing that really keeps me coming back to this plant is that stem rub. I really like that smell. Yeah, I do notice that this does have a little bit more heat stress than say maybe this one. Maybe that was placement, maybe where it was, I don't know. I do have this fan right here, and it does tend to make the plants dance a little bit on this side of the grow, but this female looks good. But like I said, again, we looking over all of them, and all the females, seem to be showing really good signs. Not any heat stress, not any tacoing, but the boys do. I messaged Alabrije, I talked to BGG. They're the two that I would consider, my mentors when it comes to this kind of stuff, who I like to bounce ideas off of. Very knowledgeable guys. The things that they say, I definitely take it, and try to digest it and try to understand what they're trying to say. So I respect their input. They had their ideas of what they kind of think, but it's also, ultimately my decision to figure out what it is that I like best and what it is that I want to work forward. I've talked to a few other people. Like I said, before I walked down here, y'all, I had somewhat of an idea. When I got home yesterday, I was like, man, look at this tall plant. Look how awesome it looks. That's the one we're keeping. And then I talked to somebody and then it was like, well, you could do this or you could do that. And then I talked to someone else and I talked to a couple people and they were like, well, kind of like this, kind of like that. I don't want to have a bunch of variation going forward. I want to be able to narrow it down, and we know that what we're getting from these right here, we can say, this is the male, this is what it looked like, this is what pollinated them. I think this is what we're gonna do. That's it. We have male 2. That is going to be our one going forward. I guess there's no going back now. I can't put this back in, huh? So that's it, y'all. We have made our selection. I think I'm gonna be happy. I think I like what I see in this one. This one just does not have as much of a smell. But when I put my nose up to it, it smells like a branch, or it smells just like just has that, I know it sounds kind of weird, just like a smell of a plant. Doesn't really, nothing stands out to me. This one definitely has, it's not crazy, it's not super stinky, but it's got something. So that something is what we're gonna work with. We're bringing all of these up together and bringing them down. My plan is I would like to dry here in this room. So what we'll do is when we cut these all down, we'll just cut them at the base and then hang them from the ceiling. We'll dry them in here, and then they'll get shucked into their individual, vials of the seeds, so we can separate them, from mom 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. We now have our male that is going to be pollinating all of our 91s and our mandala effects. Number 2 is the winner, or maybe we'll just call him the male from now. There's no reason to reference our number 1 pick as number 2 anymore, I suppose. This will go into our worm bin. Whatever comes out of my garden, I always try to go back into the garden, close the loop. All the stuff that's used to grow that plant just comes right back into it. Let's get into top dressing. We're doing something super simple, because remember 2 weeks ago, it ended up being about 5 handfuls of worm castings per box, and then about 5 handfuls of the fungal compost. Let's move this stuff around and then let's get to work. So we're also going to move our mandala effect over here. We're going to have all of the project on one side of the room now, instead of having our mandala, a lonely mandala effect over there. Let's bring that on over. We've got our male in the center right there. I watered this yesterday, so it's a little heavy. Also, my hope was to have one of the auto pot trays by now, to have this sitting in it, ready to be turned on for this project, but I don't. I did notice our one on this one side was starting to get a little bit taller than this one. So I came in one day, pinched it, flopped them over, and now we're pretty well even canopy. We're not growing these for flowers, so I'm not super concerned about how big these plants are gonna be. I'm not gonna be wanting to get them all bulked up for bud. We're growing them for seed. I'm just gonna keep kind of training them to the side. I may continue to pop these over so they stay a little bit manageable. This is a 9-gallon pot, but it's not full. We've got 2 plants in less volume of soil than we do with these. I want to stay ahead of that. I want to make sure that we don't get behind and get any deficiencies while trying to, get the best seeds that we can possibly get. Everything's looking good on these mandala effects. They're a great plant. I've always had luck with them. They've always come out beautiful. Look at the structure on them. We've got some nice arms coming up. It's always had a nice structure from every plant that I've grown and all the plants that I've seen. So I am super excited about this. Let's get our chapin ready. We're going to add our different goodies and whatnot into it, and then just a small top dressing. We're just doing the gnarly barley, and we're following that recipe of a little bit more on the higher side of it. They say 1 to 2. I'm putting 2. We're just gonna kind of throw it in there. I've got a bokashi. We're gonna add that to it as well, just to kind of help that layer break down up top. I had my wife, while I was gone, fill up the earth boxes, but I think it may have dried out just slightly. So I do notice that the top is a little bit dry. So that's why I decided to do that today. There's still a little bit of water down the hole, but I know that she only put about a gallon down there, so it's not terrible. I've also checked my moisture meter, and I did notice that it's about 45, almost 50. So I'm not too concerned about putting a top dressing on there and then doing that slight watering. It's normal practice to let that reservoir dry out. I don't think that it's gonna be a problem since our moisture content isn't through the roof just yet. So I think we're safe to do what we're gonna do. Let's mix some stuff up. Let's get it top dressed, and then we'll kind of look at the other garden. The smaller containers are looking really good right now. I think we're gonna be harvesting one very shortly. All right, so let's get this chaping going. We're just gonna put a couple gallons in here. And what I like to do is I'll put that first gallon in there. One of the things that I do like to do is these little goodies, more often, less volume. More often than say maybe the recipe calls for, but just less of the additive. I normally do one of those capfuls per gallon, but since we're just doing a quick little watering, I'm only gonna use 1 cap for the 2 gallons. I'm also gonna get a little bit of comfrey, and normally again, I would do a capful per gallon. We're just gonna do 1. Once everything dries out, I will come back through and we'll do like a good watering. I'll probably use some of our Elevate from the Soil Makers. I am going to be using this on some of our other stuff in the smaller containers. Even though we are in flower, I do need to get a little bit of nitrogen and stuff like that in there. This has got a whole bunch of good stuff, more than just nitrogen. It's more of a veg type nutrient. So we got that. Let me go grab some Q. All right, let's just do that. This Q Yaha is great stuff. Makes water wetter, if you will. It helps not let the water just run straight through if you are hydrophobic. Got saponins in it. It's got a lot of good benefits. I hate using it because it's sticky. If you don't seal it right, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Again, once I run out of that, that's it. It's gone. I am not messing with Q Yaha just because it's such a pain in the ass. Like I said, we're doing the gnarly barley. What I did was took from the bag and put it in a blender real quick, kind of chopped it up. 2 tablespoons per earth box. And this just has some enzymes and all that stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know all of the goodies that it has in it. The plants love it. Let's get this mixed up. Basically, the only reason why we're watering on top is because we are doing our little bit of a top dressing. And I did notice that the top layer was just slightly dry. I can smell comfrey extract that I got on my hands. It freaking stinks. So we've got our 2 tablespoons in there. I'm gonna just take 2 pinches, so 2 fingers, and I'm going to put that over top of our gnarly barley, and then I'm going to just kind of take my hands and scratch it in. Let's now pump it up, and we will glue it together. Beautiful. And it's kind of cool. We're starting to get some aerial roots that are coming from the stalk here. It's a happy plant. I'm also going to be taking some of these lower leaves, some of the lower stuff that we've got going on down here, just kind of strip that off and shred it up. And we'll just kind of sprinkle her in there. And then let's cover this up. Let's get the cover back on, make it look all pretty, and we're done. Let's try not to piss our one male off. All right. Sometimes I get lazy, or sometimes I just don't feel like unzipping the zipper, and I will just do one of those jobs, or hit it from the side. Beautiful. Thankfully, our plant down here is a little bit taller now, so we can actually use our cover properly and close it up. I am going to clean up any of the lower leaves and branches that we do have below our cover. And again, since we've got 2 plants, we're doing 2 tablespoons per plant. We did 4 in this bed. I am going to be a little bit more generous with our bokashi here. And again, I'm just kind of scratching it around. I do notice that the top of the soil is slightly drier on here compared to the earth boxes. I may start up the aqua valve soon. I may not. I don't know. I'm kind of nervous because these are still smaller. I don't know if their roots are all the way down quite yet, so I may hold off. But I do change my mind quite often. So who knows? She's closed up, looking pretty. Oh, that almost was bad. So let me get you a little close up. You can see what I'm kind of seeing down here. As for what I mean, just a little dry. So you can see this is the spot where our little plant was sitting. That's staying nice and moist. Otherwise, our earth box has gotten kind of dry, and I think this has just been because I was gone for a little bit. I could not monitor it, and I don't like giving my wife extra tasks. She's got enough on her plate, so it was gracious enough of her to even just put water down the tube for me. So I appreciate any help I can get. But let's check this out. I'll show you what we got going. We're taking our tablespoon and a tablespoon, and then our bokashi, sprinkling that right on top, and then I'm just coming through and kind of distributing it around there. Then we're coming through and gluing it all together with some water. Beautiful. Let's get the rest of these set up. Beautiful. All right, well, that's all of our tasks that we had planned for today for our 91 and Mandala 91 project. We culled our first male in the project. Well, our only male that we're going to be culling, the only one that we're going to have. We've made our selection down to the 1. The reason why I picked that particular male is I like the stem rub. A couple people that I talked to, they kind of agreed with me, saying that the stem rub is a good trait to have. The other male may be passing on more of his traits because he's so quick. So that's one of the main reasons why I picked it. So let's hope I made the right decision. I also didn't want a bunch of different phenotypes to be showing up later on in the project. I did want to kind of narrow it down so we know going forward what the male had to offer, and there's not, well, which male is giving what. It's going to be pretty obvious now because we only have 1 pollen donor, 1 male. That's why I did that. So now we've made our first big decision of our project. From here, we're just going to let them grow out. Obviously, we'll let them all go to seed, and I will probably run a round of flour, get some, get my stock back up, and then we will come back to this project and I will run a full room of 91s, or maybe just after this, as soon as I'm done, give it a little bit of time for those seeds to dry out a little bit, and then we'll go right into a flower run of these to see what we've got. But I'm kind of leaning more towards we'll let the seeds kind of sit for a minute. We'll get our flower stock back up. By the time these are done, we'll have gone through 1 full cycle without supplying ourselves with flour. And then obviously it will be another 80 to 90, 100 days till we're getting, to the next harvest after that. So that's going to be quite some time without getting anything coming from the garden. So I definitely have to get my my flower stock up. So that's my plan. So all of our housekeeping that we needed to do is done with our project. Let's take a look at some of our other plants that we got going on here. Some of the smaller containers, some of them are getting close for harvest, Some of them are just starting to pop off, but nonetheless, all of them are looking good. I'm excited. Some of them do look a little sad, that being from, unfortunately, me being gone for a week and the wife being able to take care of them. They weren't getting as much water as they needed, and they did pay a little bit of a price for it. I did get them going a little bit last night, but I think it's going to be a couple days. We probably need to, I've got a few things that we're going to hit with them later and hopefully bounce them back. Let's get these smaller containers back onto the earth boxes to where they live. So here's our first one, the Induus. This was the freebie from Drowsy. As you can see, she is one of the ones that unfortunately did pay the price of neglect. She was super sad when I got home. I mean, all of these leaves were just completely drooping down. She was thirsty. I'll leave those on. One of the things that I kind of use to tell if I'm going to, if any of those ones are starting to yellow, I'll kind of push down on them a little bit. If they seem like they're still holding on, I don't fuck with them. One of the nice things I like to do too is we'll take this and we'll put it to work. We'll let them worms enjoy it, kind of chew it up. Goes back into the garden. But I think we got her back. She's looking good for being this little itty bitty baby pot. It's quite amazing what these plants can do. I totally forgot about one of our mandala effects, but that's okay. We'll get to that one. Here's our West Coast Tucadilla. Look at that. This is the West Coast. Yes, sir. West Coast. Look at that bad boy. 1 gallon. Awesome structure. I think this one may benefit from me coming in and taking some of these larger ones off to let some light in there. We'll do that. Clean off some of the bottom here. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of tuck some of those behind. Yeah, let's try this. I'm gonna pinch it. Just kind of bend her down. This will kind of slow it down just a little bit. It's gonna let some of those other side branches come up. But I can guarantee you by the end of the day, this bad girl is going to be standing straight up. She's looking really good. So that's it. We just took off a handful. And now once I come back and we do some top dressing, again, all of these smaller pots are also going to get some of our gnarly barley. We'll also give them a shot of that Elevate because these are in smaller pots. I like to give them a little extra when I can. And this poor girl, I don't know how I could have forgotten about her. Not a poor girl in the sense of, just her, but I am sorry for forgetting about you. This is one of the mandala effects. This is the one from Rev. And it's kind of done this cool mutation. So you would think that this is kind of that top branch and you just got one really long kind of side branch coming up. But it's actually not the case. If you look down there, I don't know if I can get a good view, but she almost did one of these self-topping type jobs and has split off going in 2 directions. So kind of a neat mutation, actually. So this will also be one of the ones receiving pollen. Obviously, kind of, I guess, really all of these will be receiving pollen. Even our West Coast should probably end up getting some. I'm wondering if it may be a little bit farther along. So I'm not sure. I'm not well versed in exactly, the time frame. But I mean, just like in nature, there's ones that are going to be further ahead than others, ones that are further behind. and they would be pollinating just like this, having that one male, all the seeds being planted at once, right? They're all in the ground and then coming up all at once. Some will have more mature seeds, I imagine, and some will have others less mature. But I would imagine that just like all these other plants, we've got certain ones that are a little bit behind and other ones that are a little bit further ahead. They're all going to get seeded. So I'm excited for all these cool little crosses that we'll have. Unintentional, but it was, you know, I was just filling out the garden. I had some pots, so why not? We've got our skull planters. These have our broken leg by BGG. They're all looking good. I do not see any sex quite yet. I say that and I look at this one and I think we have a female. The reason why I say that is that first little right up there, little white hair. So that may be a female. Awesome. I'm excited. This is the larger one out of the two. Be really awesome if we got 2 of them. So we've got them. I think what we may do with this male, instead of putting it in the worm bin, I think we should mulch this and put it into our one male earth box. Hopefully this guy gets some of its vibes, some of its stuff. We'll put her in there. I think that's what we'll do. That's what I'm feeling. As for our other little garden here, this is probably one of my new favorite pots. I got it from Kohl's. This is our 2024 Mystery Mescala from Alebrije. And I mean, look at that. Look how small that little planter is, and she's still cruising. I have a feeling it may be a little bit of a struggle to keep her happy going forward, but I think it will give me a good excuse to break out the extracts. Again, we've got our Elevate for some of the veg stuff. My flowering nutrients is now the end game, so I'll be using that. And what I've got left of our Build a Bloom. This stuff is what I'll be using to kind of like do quick shots, make sure that we're keeping up on stuff. It's kind of tough to do top dressing in these small containers, so having those water soluble things definitely help. We've got our Star Fox. This is a water only at this point. I don't think she has much longer, but there are some nice chunky buds on that little baby plant. Here is, I finally did it. Finally got it wrapped around. I'm proud of myself. This is our Drowsy Labaca in our Alebrije, Mrs. Alebrije's pot. It looks awesome. I may try to, later on, maybe tie these down a little bit. But as you can see, it's definitely full in flower. But man, I'm so happy that I was actually able to get this around. And it's actually kind of cool. If you notice, the stem twisted as well. So this is gonna be really awesome to see once it's all done. What the hell did I plant in here? I cannot remember. After some deliberation, this is Juicy Ajoloro. This is the one that I got from Your Average Grow. This is an Alebrije genetics cultivar, but this is the one that was done by Aussie Autos. So I believe this is the F3, and that's in the soil is about as much as a solo cup. Super awesome pot by Nama Potter, one of my favorites. What I have found with some of these smaller plants is they definitely do better in lower light. Now I do have to get this out from underneath these monstrosity of plants that I got in half gallon. Again, some of the larger ones that I've gotten out of the smaller containers. And I do contribute some of that to our blue mats, but I've got to get this out in the light to get her going a little bit more so she's not quite as weird and lanky and getting one of those little swoopy things. But I have noticed that these smaller containers, if you don't want to outpace what your container can do, what your biology can do, the lower the light, the plant will, it's going to be not quite as, as efficient as something that's got the right amount of nutrients and the right amount of stuff. But if we don't outpace what we can provide the plant, this plant will do a lot better than driving it with the light. So just be easy on her and she'll take you where you need to go. We've got our V3 frogception in our frog planter, looking good. Again, my what I tried to do, and I think I messed it up somehow. I may have pulled on the roots a little bit too much, but my plan is to get this to grow, and I want to be able to get it so the plant ends up coming out the foot, or you know, some may say a plant growing out its butt, or whatever. That's what we're gonna do. So at that one, we've got our BGG Auto Reg. This is the photo number 2. Looking fucking stellar. We do have a little bit of deficiency starting to show up. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what day it is, but I will also contribute this to it drying out just slightly. I also have not been keeping up with doing a bunch of feeding, but otherwise it's looking absolutely wonderful. The 1.5 gallon right there, that's our Frogception V1. Looking awesome as well. Starting to get slight bit of deficiencies, but I think we can bounce back from that and not see much. Here is our Chem Labrata. She's quite the plant. She's looking awesome. Beautiful structure. Those buds are starting to pack on. I can tell you, this corner has a funky smell to it. I don't know who's responsible, but they're awesome. They smell great. Of course, its little sister in here. She's going into flower. I may end up pulling her at some point, or I'll just let her do her thing. Looking pretty darn good. Of course, we've got our Tangy F3 in our little baby solo cup. But not bad. I think that this is, I'd have to look back at my my time frame, but I know that this plant is pretty surprising. I would say, I think it's 70s or 80s at this point. So she's holding on pretty good. Oh, it may be that one that's stinking the joint up. I don't know. That one's pretty stinky too, but looking good. We've got, again here, you can kind of see, this is what happens when you have them just slightly too low of a light. And I did accidentally hit it with some water. This is our Red Kong by Hummingbird Hills. Let's give you a little love. So we'll put you out there. These plants definitely got a lot bigger than I had anticipated. They're kind of shadowing out all these ones. It's a price I am willing to pay. So that's it, folks. I'm gonna get in here. We'll do the top dressing. We're gonna be doing the same kind of stuff with these over here, but I will be giving a little bit more attention and love with that kind of stuff. Give her some little bit of boost. Otherwise, that's it for me, folks. I've got some work to do. I've got some friends coming over today. I've got to get all this done, get outside, get some work done. I appreciate you guys sticking around if you've made it this far. We'll see you next time. Peace.